My husband said his stepsister was just family. Then she left me a voicemail whispering, "You don't understand our bond." And I played it in front of everyone. For a few seconds, nobody moved. Not his father. Not his stepmother. Not the woman who had spent years smiling at me across birthday cakes and Christmas dinners, like she wasn't slowly taking pieces of my marriage when I wasn't looking. And not my husband. Matthew just stood there in his parents' kitchen, pale and silent, while Stephanie's voice came out of my phone again. "You don't understand our bond." That was the moment I stopped wondering if I was crazy. Before that night, I spent years convincing myself I was being dramatic. I told myself every family had weird dynamics. Every family had private jokes. Every family had people who were a little too close because they grew up together. Matthew and Stephanie were step-siblings. His father married her mother when Matthew was 14 and Stephanie was 11. So no, they were not related by blood. People loved saying that later, like it erased everything else. Like growing up in the same house, eating at the same table, opening Christmas presents beside each other, calling the same people mom and dad, and being raised as family somehow didn't matter. I met Matthew in Charlotte when I was 23. He was calm, patient, and the kind of man who noticed little things. He remembered how I took my coffee. He warmed up my car when it was cold. He could tell when I was upset before I even said anything. I thought that meant he was safe. That is what hurts the most now. The worst betrayals do not always come from careless men. Sometimes they come from the ones who look gentle while they are lying straight to your face. The first time I met Stephanie, she hugged Matthew before she even really looked at me. It was not enough to call out. That was the problem. Nothing she did was obvious enough to make a scene over. She would touch his arm when she laughed. She would lean into his shoulder during family photos. She called him Maddie in this soft little voice nobody else used. She joked that she knew him before he got all responsible and boring, and everyone laughed like it was cute. Matthew always brushed it off. "That's just Stephanie," he would say. "She likes attention." And I believed him because I wanted to believe him. I did not want to be the insecure wife who made family gatherings uncomfortable. I did not want to be the woman who saw danger in every hug. I told myself they had a sibling bond one did not understand. I told myself I was lucky his family accepted me at all. But the feeling never really went away. At family dinners, Stephanie always found a reason to sit near him. If I sat beside him first, she sat across from him. If I was in the kitchen helping her mother, Stephanie drifted into the living room where Matthew was. If he stepped outside, she followed. If his phone buzzed late at night, he checked it quickly and turned the screen down. When I asked once if it was her, he said, "She's having a hard time." That became the answer for everything. Stephanie was having a hard time after a breakup. Stephanie was having a hard time at work. Stephanie was lonely. Stephanie did not trust many people. Stephanie needed him. And somehow, because she needed him, I was supposed to need less. The first moment I truly felt sick happened at his father's birthday dinner. It was a warm Saturday night, and his parents had invited everyone over. His father was grilling. His stepmother kept bringing out food like we were feeding 20 people instead of 7. Stephanie had already had too much wine by the time we sat down. At first, she was loud but normal. She complained about dating apps, about men lying about their height, about how nobody wanted anything real anymore. Everyone laughed politely. Then she looked across the table at Matthew and said, "Honestly, if we weren't technically family, we probably would have ended up together." The whole table went quiet. Not for long. Maybe 2 seconds. Maybe less. But I felt those seconds like a hand around my throat. His stepmother laughed too loudly and said, "Stephanie, stop. You're being ridiculous." His father looked down at his plate. Matthew did not look at me. That was what I remembered later. Not the joke. Not the awkward silence. Matthew staring at his beer like if he looked anywhere else, something would crack open. On the drive home, I asked him why he did not shut it down. He sighed like I was starting a fight for no reason. "She was drunk," he said. That doesn't make it less weird. It was a stupid comment. It sounded like something she had thought about before. He tightened his grip on the steering wheel. "Please don't make this into something ugly." I stared out the window and said, "It already felt ugly." He did not answer. After that, I started noticing everything I had tried not to notice. Stephanie called him more. Sometimes late. Sometimes when I was sitting right beside him on the couch. He would glance at the screen, stand up, and say, "I'll be right back." One night I asked, "Why can't you just answer here?" He said, "Because she gets embarrassed." Embarrassed about what? About needing help. I remember laughing once, not because it was funny, but because I was tired. "She's your stepsister, Matthew. Why does she need privacy from your wife?" He looked at me for a long second and said, "She doesn't trust easily." That sentence stayed with me. She doesn't trust easily. Apparently she trusted my husband enough. 3 months ago, Stephanie moved into a new apartment across town. Matthew told me he was going to help her carry furniture because her friends bailed and she did not want to ask his parents. I offered to come. He said, no, it'll be boring. It's just boxes and a couch. I can still help. She's embarrassed about the mess. That was the excuse. I should have pushed harder. I know that now. But at the time, I was tired of feeling like I had to beg to be included in my own marriage. So I said fine. He left around 4 in the afternoon. At 8, he texted that they were almost done. At 9:30, he said they still had to assemble a bed frame. At 11, I called. He did not answer. At 11:30, he texted, driving soon. He came home after midnight. The house was quiet. I was sitting at the kitchen island with one lamp on, pretending to look at my phone. I knew something was wrong before he even spoke. His hair was damp like he had splashed water on his face. His shirt was wrinkled. And when he leaned down to kiss my forehead, I smelled her perfume. Not a faint smell from a hug. Enough that my stomach dropped. I looked up at him and asked, did something happen? He froze. That freeze told me everything before he opened his mouth. He pulled back slowly and said, what do you mean? I said, do not do that. Do not make me ask it twice. He looked toward the hallway. Then he looked at the floor. Then he sat down at the kitchen island we had picked out together after arguing for months about whether we could afford the remodel. And he said, it was a mistake. I remember the sound I made. It was almost a laugh, but there was nothing funny in it. A mistake is forgetting milk. A mistake is shrinking a sweater. A mistake is taking the wrong exit. Not crossing that line with the woman who calls your father dad. He started crying quietly. Not dramatic crying. Not begging yet. Just tears sliding down his face while he kept rubbing his hands together. He said Stephanie had been emotional. She was lonely. She was overwhelmed. They had been talking while putting the bed together. She started crying about how nobody ever stayed. He hugged her. She said he was the only person who really understood her. Then, according to him, the lines got blurred. The lines got blurred. I hated that phrase immediately. Lines do not blur by themselves. People step over them and then pretend the fog did it. I asked how many times. He said once. I asked, did you plan it? No. Did you want it? He started crying harder. That was another answer. I asked if he loved her. He said, not like that. Not like that. I could not understand how 3 words could make something worse, but they did. Because it meant there was a way he did love her. A way he had categorized it in his head. A way he had given it space. Then I asked the question I already knew would break me. Did this start before me? He did not answer fast enough. The room went cold. He swore nothing physical had happened before. He said they had confusing feelings when they were younger. He said they both knew it was wrong because their parents were married. He said they never acted on it. He said they buried it. I asked, so this was not random. He whispered, no. That was the first honest thing he said. I packed a bag that night with shaking hands. He followed me from room to room, begging me not to leave, saying he would sleep in the guest room, saying we could talk in the morning. I said, you do not get to bring this into my house and then ask me to sleep down the hall from you. He said, it's our house. I stopped packing and looked at him. No, it is my house. I bought it before you. Remember that. His face changed then. Just for a second. Like the practical consequences had finally entered the room. I went to Amy's apartment. She opened the door in pajama pants, took one look at me, and said, what happened? I tried to say it normally, but there is no normal way to say your husband cheated with his stepsister. Amy did not interrupt. She just sat with me on the couch while I shook so badly I could barely hold the glass of water she gave me. By morning, Matthew had called 12 times. Then his stepmother called. Then his father. Then Stephanie. I did not answer any of them at first. Matthew sent long messages. He said he loved me. He said he hated himself. He said it was one night. He said he would go to therapy. He said we should not let one terrible decision destroy everything we built. That phrase made me furious. Everything we built. Like I had helped build a marriage, and he had simply dropped a plate. His stepmother left a voicemail first. Her voice was tight, careful, almost polite. I know you're hurt. I can't imagine how you feel. But please remember they are not actually related. This is awful, but it doesn't have to become a public family tragedy. Not actually related. That became the family's favorite defense. His father left a message too. He sounded exhausted. Jennifer, I'm sorry. I really am. But I'm asking you to think before you do anything permanent. This family will not survive this getting out. I stared at my phone after that message for a long time. This family will not survive this getting out. Not, you should not have been betrayed. Not, my son destroyed your trust. Not, are you safe? Just please protect the family. Then Stephanie left her voicemail. I almost deleted it without listening. But some instinct made me press play. She was crying or pretending to cry. Her voice was soft and shaky. I'm sorry. I know you hate me. I know you think this is disgusting. But you don't understand our bond. You came in after. You don't know what we were to each other before everyone decided we had to pretend it was normal. I listened to it 3 times. The first time, I felt sick. The second time, I felt numb. The third time, I felt something inside me go still. Because that was not an apology. That was ownership. She was not sorry she hurt me. She was sorry I had a claim she did not respect. She was sorry the truth made her look ugly. But she was not sorry for what she wanted. I sent the voicemail to Matthew with one message. She is still defending it. He replied almost immediately. She's emotional. Please don't use this against her. That was when I knew I was done. Not legally. Not emotionally. Not fully. But somewhere deep down, the marriage ended in that moment. He was still protecting her. Even after what they did, he was worried about me being unfair to her. 2 days later, his parents asked me to come over for a family conversation. I said no. His stepmother called Amy's phone because I had stopped answering mine. Amy handed it to me and whispered, "You don't have to." I took it anyway. His stepmother said, "We are not trying to excuse anything. We just think everyone needs to sit down calmly." I said, "You want me calm because my anger is inconvenient." She went quiet. Then she said, "I want to keep this family from being destroyed." I said, "Your family was destroyed in Stephanie's apartment. Not by me talking about it." She cried then. Or maybe she wanted me to think she did. She said, "You have no idea what this will do to his father." And I said, "Do you have any idea what this did to me?" She did not answer. I agreed to go only because Matthew kept claiming I was refusing to hear the full story. I wanted to hear what full story could possibly make it better. Amy drove me because she did not want me alone. I walked into that house with my phone in my pocket and my whole body buzzing. I had eaten almost nothing for 2 days. I felt hollow, like someone had scooped out everything soft in me and left only nerves. They were all in the kitchen. Matthew stood by the counter. His father sat at the table. His stepmother hovered near the sink. Stephanie was there too, wearing a sweater I had seen before in family pictures, her hair pulled back, eyes red. She looked smaller than usual. For 1 second, I hated that I noticed. His father spoke first. He said, "Thank you for coming." I said, "Do not thank me yet." Nobody laughed. Matthew started with the same things he had texted. He was sorry. He loved me. He had ruined everything. He would do anything. He wanted counseling. He wanted boundaries with Stephanie. I asked, "You need boundaries now?" He swallowed. Stephanie spoke before he could answer. "I know you see me as the villain," she said. I turned to her. "You are not the only villain, but yes, you are one of them." She flinched. His stepmother said, "Let's not attack each other." I looked at her and said, "Who is each other?" She looked confused. I said, "Because everyone here keeps speaking like this is a shared conflict. Like we all made a mess together. I did not touch anyone's husband. I did not betray anyone. I did not ask to be here." Matthew said my name softly, like a warning. That made me angrier. His father rubbed his face and said, "We all understand this was wrong." I said, "No. You understand it is embarrassing." His stepmother snapped then. "That is not fair." I looked at her and said, "You called me and told me they are not actually related." Her face went pale. Stephanie whispered, "Because we're not." And there it was. Not regret. Not shame. A defense. I pulled out my phone. Matthew saw it and straightened. "Jennifer," he said, "don't." That was the first time he sounded scared. I opened the voicemail and pressed play. Stephanie's voice filled the kitchen. "I'm sorry. I know you hate me. I know you think this is disgusting. But you don't understand our bond. You came in after. You don't know what we were to each other before everyone decided we had to pretend it was normal." No one moved. When it ended, I played the last part again. "You don't understand our bond." Then I looked at his stepmother and said, "That is what you are asking me to protect." Stephanie started crying for real then. She said I had no right to play a private message. I almost laughed. Private. Everyone suddenly loved that word when privacy protected them. Matthew looked broken, but not in the way I needed him to. He looked ashamed because everyone had heard it. Not because I had been forced to hear it alone. His father stood up slowly and asked Stephanie, "What does she mean by what you were to each other?" Stephanie shook her head. His stepmother said, "Richard, don't." And the whole room changed. Because his father looked at her then. Really looked at her. "What do you mean, don't?" His stepmother started crying. She said they were young. She said it was complicated. She said they never did anything. She said they had been confused after the marriage. She said they went through a phase where they were too attached, and she thought it passed. I stared at her. "You knew?" She looked at me and said, "I knew they had feelings when they were teenagers." I didn't know this would happen. Matthew said, "Mom, stop." Mom. He called her mom. The woman whose daughter he had just betrayed me with. His father looked like someone had aged him 10 years in 5 seconds. He asked Matthew, "Did this happen before?" Matthew said no. His father asked again. Matthew said, "Not physically." His father sat back down like his legs stopped working. That was the major crack in the family image they wanted me to protect. Not my anger. Not my phone. The truth. Stephanie looked at Matthew like she expected him to save her. And maybe once he would have. But he just stood there. I told them I was filing for separation. I told Matthew not to come home without arranging a time. I told his parents I would not be attending family meetings, family dinners, or family healing conversations. Then I left. Amy was waiting in the car. When I got in, she did not ask what happened. She just took one look at my face and drove. The screenshots started spreading the next day. Not from me, at least not directly. Someone in that kitchen told someone, and someone told someone else. Stephanie tried to control the story by posting something online about being punished for loving too deeply and being misunderstood by people with small minds. I should have ignored it. I know that. But I had spent days being told to be quiet, be graceful, be careful, be private. And then she tried to turn it into tragic poetry. So I commented once. You slept with your stepbrother and left me a voicemail calling it a bond. Let's not make this poetic. I deleted it after a few minutes. It did not matter. People had already seen it. Matthew called me furious. Not sad. Not sorry. Furious. He said, why would you do that? I said, why would you do what you did? He said I humiliated him. I said no. I named what you did. The humiliation belongs to you. His stepmother called me cruel. She said I had made everything worse. She said Stephanie was fragile and I had no idea what kind of damage I was causing. I said, you are still protecting her. She said, she is my daughter. And I said, I was your daughter-in-law. She had no answer for that. His father texted me once. You had every right to be hurt. I wish this had not become public, but I understand now that we failed you too. I am sorry. That message made me cry harder than anything Matthew sent. Maybe because it was the first apology that did not ask me for something. The next few weeks were ugly in a quiet way. Matthew stayed with Brian from work because his father did not want him at the family house. His stepmother and father were barely speaking. Stephanie disappeared from social media after her post backfired. People picked sides because people always do. Some said I had every right. Some said I should have kept it private. Some said Stephanie and Matthew were not blood related, so it was only cheating, not some massive scandal. Only cheating. As if that word was small. As if being betrayed with his stepsister was something I could fold neatly into the same box as a random affair and move on. I met with Deborah, my lawyer, in a small office that smelled like coffee and printer paper. I expected to feel strong there, but I cried before I even finished explaining. She just slid a tissue box toward me and said, take your time. She confirmed what I already knew. The house was mine. I bought it before the marriage. Matthew had contributed to bills and some renovations, so there would be details to settle, but he could not take it from me. That was my first real breath in weeks. Not because I cared more about the house than the marriage, but because that house was the only place where I still had ground under me. Matthew came by one afternoon to get clothes. I told him he had 30 minutes. Amy sat in the living room with me while he packed because I did not trust myself to be alone with him. Not because I thought he would hurt me, but because I was afraid grief would make me weak. He looked awful. Thinner. Pale. Like sleep had stopped finding him. He stood in the hallway holding a duffel bag and said, I miss you. I said nothing. He said, I hate myself. I still said nothing. Then he said, it was one night. That sentence made me look at him. I asked, would you still call it one night if I never smelled her perfume? His face collapsed. He started crying again. And there it was. The answer. He did not confess because guilt won. He confessed because I caught the edge of the truth and pulled. That realization settled something in me. It hurt, but it also helped. Because I had been torturing myself with what-ifs. What if he really was sorry? What if it really was one terrible mistake? What if leaving was too harsh? But love is not just what someone says after they are caught. Love is what they protect when nobody is watching. He protected her. He protected the family image. He protected the secret. He did not protect me. Before he left, he looked around the house and said, we were happy here. I said I was. He closed his eyes like that hurt him. Good. I am not proud of every part of how I handled it. I know I wanted them embarrassed. I know part of me wanted people to whisper when Stephanie walked into a room. I know I wanted his family to feel shame because they had tried to hand all of it to me and call it maturity. Maybe that was petty. Maybe that was human. I still think about the good parts of Matthew and I hate that they were real. He held my hand during the worst doctor appointment of my life. He made soup when I was sick. He danced with me in the kitchen before the cabinets were finished. He once drove 40 minutes in the rain because I mentioned I wanted a specific cupcake from a bakery across town. Those memories did not vanish just because he betrayed me. That is the cruelest part. You do not stop loving someone the second they destroy you. Sometimes you love them while changing the locks. Sometimes you miss them while signing papers. Sometimes you cry over a person you would never take back. Stephanie messaged me from a new account last week. All she wrote was, I hope someday you understand this wasn't simple. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I blocked her. Maybe it was not simple for them. For me, it became simple the moment everyone expected me to carry a secret that was crushing me. The calm victory is not dramatic. I did not ruin their lives with some master plan. I did not scream at a courthouse or throw his clothes onto the lawn. I changed the locks. I kept the dogs. I kept my house. I stopped answering messages that began with "please just understand." His father moved into a small rental while he figures out what to do about his marriage. His stepmother still blames me, from what I hear. Stephanie is staying with a friend. Matthew keeps sending long emails I skim only enough to forward to Deborah. And me? I am still here. In the same house. At the same kitchen island. The one where he first said it was a mistake. Some mornings I make coffee and still expect to hear his keys. Some nights I wake up angry all over again. Healing is not clean. It does not arrive like a movie ending. It comes in small, almost boring moments. A quiet house. A full night of sleep. A lawyer's email that says I am protected. A friend laughing with me over takeout. A phone screen with his name finally muted. I used to think closure meant getting the whole truth. Now I think closure is accepting that some people will always edit the truth to make themselves survivable. I do not need their version anymore. He chose the one person who made the betrayal impossible to explain without making everyone sick. His family chose silence until silence stopped working. And I chose myself, even when they called it cruelty. So am I wrong for playing that voicemail and letting the truth get out after they tried to pressure me into protecting the family image? Or did they lose the right to privacy when they expected me to carry their shame for them?